I'll tell you a secret. I think my first conference was in 1987.
So that is
in
more.
In Vienna, Austria.
87?
Yeah.
So you were before the high school.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. Dear Stefano, ASSE Lavoro members, guests, SHED members, ladies and gentlemen, in Italian, bentornato a casa, which means something like welcome home, and that's typical because all ways indeed lead to Rome. So this is our home, at least for the coming 2 days. Thanks, Stefano, for your kind words, for opening this conference, and for explaining the current challenging and interesting labor market environment in Italy. Italy is in the last stages of a very thorough labor market reform program. I hope it works well for the economy. We see already GDP and employment rising. And I hope actually it just works as well here as it worked in Germany, where they had their reforms about 10 years back. And the architect of that reforms, Dr. Hartz, will be one of our main guest speakers later. So there's a parallel there. Welcome all to this conference. Each year we indeed, and I hope we have about 48 conferences now. This is number 48, I assume, as we were established in 1967 in Paris. Each year we get together with you coming from all corners of the world. We have indeed representatives from all SHED regions. We have 6 regions: Europe, North America, South America, Africa, North Asia, and Asia Pacific. Thank you for all flying in here. And a warm welcome to our high-level guests and speakers. I certainly, and I think I'm speaking for all, look forward to hear more from you today and tomorrow. Learning, listening. And lastly, I'm grateful, and they have their stands outside, to our 2 very loyal sponsors, Bond and Career Builder, for supporting us again with this conference. Thank you. Next year, not starting now, but about this conference, I'm starting now a bit about next year's conference. We will be moving outside of Europe again. We have a tradition of doing 2 conferences in Europe, last year in Belgium, this year in Rome, and then we move outside. And next year we will be moving to the east, far to the east, to New Delhi, India. We will learn more about that conference at the end of tomorrow. Thank you, ASSE Lavoro, for organizing this conference. And just look at this room. I don't think I can imagine a more Renaissance, Romanesque room to tell our great stories, to share our stories, to tell about what we do and what we contribute to the labor market. Looking at this, I really feel the weight of centuries of culture, of art and wisdom upon me, and I think we shall profit from it. SHED, and if I look at past conferences, I see a theme. I see a red thread in the themes we have been discussing. A red thread is derived from an ancient Greek mythological story, Ariadne, Minotaur, something on Crete. But that's Greek, so I'll just stop here and I'll just go on with the content of the red thread. The red thread in SHED's life is showcasing our useful role, the role of private employment services in the changing world of work. If you look at how we branded it, how we positioned it, you can call it adapting to change, as our 2012 report was called. Or you can brand it as the way to work, as we have done so over the past few years. Or, as Federgon did last year in the conference for Brussels, you can call it Fast Forward to the Future of Work. This year, our theme is the triple win of the employment and recruitment industry. 3 gains. Maybe the last slide, the slide back, please. We're going too fast. 3 gains: mobility, inclusion, and competitiveness. That's 3 important gains. But there's more. Our added value to the 3 parties involved: our employees, our workers, our clients, and, of course, the society at large. The red thread is reflected in the program. Later this morning, we will have 3 thematic sessions. The first one will focus on our own industry. What's the future of employment and recruitment services around the world? Where should we be heading? It's a question where I know, talking with you, a lot of our members are dealing with, are thinking about. Where should we be heading? We see a changing world of work, how to adapt our services, but also how to adapt our federations. In the second session, we will take a closer look at clients and strategic partners. Why would they hire us? How can we help them make sense of a world that becomes increasingly volatile, complex, and fragmented? Tomorrow, we will be looking at agency work, the triangular employment relation that still is our core business, still is something like 80% of our global turnover. We strongly believe that agency work offers good quality, decent work. It is standard work, it is secure work, and it is regular work. Whatever people say, it is that: standard, secure, and regular. And I'll demonstrate that. And being that, it fully belongs in the range of decent contracts fit for purpose for today's and tomorrow's labor market. The labor market, and that's the next slide, indeed faces an employment crisis, as well as an increasing skills gap at the same time. And in the longer term, we have a demographic shift looming. The ingredients, 3 ingredients of a very complex picture. We have 201 million unemployed people globally. Enormous, a staggering figure. It's terrible to think about. Certainly when you also reflect that 74 million are young people looking desperately for a job. We know, I'm quoting figures from OECD and ILO here, we know we need to create 280 million jobs over the next 5 years to absorb all unemployed and newcomers to the labor market. Jobs that require different skill sets than our current talent has. Research McKinsey shows that 38% of companies cannot find the right skill sets, the right talent today. That's staggering. It tells me something that we should give a better cooperation between the world of work and the world of education. There's much to gain there, talking about gains. Because we know if we don't do, it will become worse. And then, in the longer term, we have the demographic shift looming upon us. We're all getting older and grayer, while in Europe, our working population is shrinking. In Germany, it is actually shrinking today. Towards, in Europe, a shortage of 35 million people, workers, in 2050. Meanwhile, the world is changing in numerous ways under the influence of technology. Will 3D printing be the next big thing, igniting the 3rd or the 4th industrial revolution? We don't know, but we do know something will happen. Predicting the future is very difficult business. Don't think people are really able to do so. Just think about looking at all you, looking at me with my iPad. The thing is 5 years old. It was then brought on the market 5 years ago. And look at how it changed our world. Look at how social media changed our world. And coming to that, I would really encourage you to Twitter about this conference, even more so than last year's conference, and you all know the hashtag is #Siet2015. But back to the labor market challenges. There are no easy solutions. We are very lucky to have a room full of experts, you, that can contribute to the discussion, analyzing, finding solutions, that can talk about the contribution our industry can deliver. And that contribution is, we know from experience. You have to tap now, slide. Yeah, it works. The employment and recruitment industry can make a difference, a positive difference. The role of our industry is to support businesses and workers to find their way, to navigate their way in an ever-changing landscape. We cannot do it alone. We work together with our stakeholders, and our stakeholders are also in the room. ILO, IOE, the International Organization of Employers, WAPES, representing the public employment services around the world, and partner associations or potential partner associations such as ECSSA for executive search, and of course our friends from staffing industry analysts. We'll all listen to them, we'll all talk to them. Let's see together what we can find. Some of those changes, bit of an elaboration here. ILO last week published a great report, the World Employment and Social Outlook 2015. I recommend you all to read it, at least give it a glance. It provides an excellent overview of the changing nature of jobs. Among other things, ILO data shows that over 60% of workers globally work without a formal employment contract. Without a formal employment contract. They're working independently or in family work, or worst of worst, in informal, in undeclared work. This means, and looking at the slide, looking at the diagram on, for you, the right side of the slide, this means that a maximum of 60% of workers are in the red circle on the right of this diagram. The diagram actually is based on a research done by the London Metropolitan University in 2012, an assignment of the EU, trying to rate job contracts on quality. Because a job contract in itself actually, whether it's open-ended, part-time, full-time, fixed-term, agency work, seasonal work, casual work, 0 hours, bogus self-employed, informal, a labor contract in itself actually says nothing about quality. We need to dig one level deeper. We need to look at the elements that constitute quality work. Elements like wages, equal pay, health and safety, representation, freedom of association. Elements that constitute together decent quality work. And that's exactly what the London Metropolitan University has done. They have rated on a scale from 1 to 5 these contracts. And what you see is that actually full-time open-ended, part-time open-ended, fixed-term contracts and agency work rated on par. It's also worthy to note that an full-time open-ended contract didn't rate the full 5. 5 was the highest score, 1 the lowest. So looking at that one level deeper, at the elements of quality of work, you can see there is a choice of 4 quality, decent contracts to choose from. The others, I'm not going to say they are bad, but they have maybe some deficits we could look upon as ILO, as community. We have to realize, you know, we always, when we're talking about corporate CSR, corporate responsible sustainability, when talking about that, we always talk about diversity. A labor market needs diversity. But diversity is also a nice word when it comes to employment contracts on the labor market. A labor market needs diversity in contracts as well. There is no one-size-fits-all, and this is the message we should try to give. The role of our industry is to be able to offer all these contracts to all our workers. Decent contracts in order to help companies adapt to change. And we know that the more successful we are in doing that, the bonus the society will get is more and better jobs. Based on research, we know that. We also know that where there are restrictions on our services, job creation is less good, informality is higher, and unemployment is also higher. In order to do our job, we need legislation. Legislation based on ILO Convention 181. That's the Convention on Private Employment Agencies. And we actually have the highest rating, I think, or above average of a technical, we have a technical convention in the last years. Our convention was adopted in 1997, and we now have 31 ratifications. A nice number. This year we added 3, but our ambition reaches higher. And this is one of the things we will be discussing with ILO, how to get even more ratifications, even more regulation on agency work, on private employment agencies that is adapted, compliant with ILO 181. Now, in the last part of the opening speech, a bit of internal, about SJED. About strategy. Last time when we met in Brussels, we set out several strategic priorities. I summarized these in my speech then as ABC. The A for alignment of our messages among members and sharing positive stories. The B for broadening of our membership basis as well as HR services we as a confederation represent, and broadening partnerships with other organizations. And C, becoming increasingly important, it's the basis, compliance, a prerequisite for delivering quality work. Where do we stand? We have made good progress, which we have been discussing yesterday in our General Assembly. There's still work in progress. One of the things, and that's on the next slide, we need to do more. We have started to do so. We need to do more is share, join, share, and showcase. The numbers, tell the numbers, look at the facts, tell the stories. We support 60.9 million people in their job life, help 24.4 million young people enter the labor market, upskill 8 million people, create 4 million jobs, and serve 2.3 million companies with the right talent. Impressive stories, impressive facts to tell. Then the B, broadening. We have been very active in visiting, that's on the next slide, visiting our membership. Last year, the board, the secretariat, myself, we together visited over 24 of our members. That's almost half of our membership, helping them with their public affairs, their public relations work, meeting with policymakers, and offering advice about capacity building. We went, and that's also ABC, we went to Argentina, the A, Brazil, the B, and China, the C. But we also went to India and many, many more countries. And we plan to keep continuing doing so, supporting you, helping you where it is needed, and telling our joint stories together. Then, C, the compliance. On the next slide. It's an important part of capacity building. We are achieving concrete results there, working together with the ILO in the Fair Recruitment Initiative, improving recruitment practices in India, Bangladesh, and Nepal. This picture was taken in Nepal in December, but unfortunately, Nepal these days has some other worries than fair recruitment. Linked to the ILO project, we have revised the SIET Code of Conduct, and we approved the revised Code of Conduct during our General Assembly yesterday. We will put it on the website, we will tell it, because it shows how committed we are to decent employment, to human rights. Alignment, broadening, and compliance all collide in the new branding and positioning we are developing for SIET. A task force chaired by SIET Vice President Hans Leentjes and supported by several board members and experts. They have been discussing what language we could best use to tell our stories for the alignment. A delicate process, it needs to be future-proof, it needs to bring our members together, it needs to leave room for national diversity and regional preferences, it needs to reflect the broadening range of HR services we offer, not only agency work, but also permanent recruitment, RPO, outplacement, career management. And we should, at the same time, be specific and recognizable. If you ask the question to what language you use, it's an important exercise. What does our industry have to offer to the world? And they found language. We all read it. Hans Leentjes already read it out yesterday at the General Assembly, but I am proud to be able to read it out again to you. This is what we are. We are the work and employment specialists industry, providing meaningful work to millions of people and creating jobs with thousands of organizations. Our role is to drive people and organizations to navigate a changing world of work by enabling work, adaptation, security, and prosperity. As a result, we give hope, we develop confidence, build trust, and deliver pride. Hope, confidence, trust, and pride are our main values. I have already touched upon work, adaptation, security. What I didn't, and that's the conclusion of my speech, didn't touch upon is prosperity. We are growth drivers, working in a 415 billion euro industry, offering employment to 1.6 million people in our own agencies, our own staff, and to the more than 60 million people who last year alone found access to work via us. We contribute considerably to the global economy. It's worthwhile researching how much, maybe a topic for next research. Because we make labor markets more efficient, we reduce informal work, and we decrease unemployment. For me, reasons enough to take great pride in our work each day. Now, that we have found a common language, who we represent, what our values are, we will look at branding over the next year. We may have to find another name for SIET, a tagline, a logo. In 2 years' time, we will celebrate our 50th anniversary. And it may be, not a guarantee here, but a pre-warning, I would say, it may be under a new name. So please, members, stay tuned and involved in this progress. The following 2 days will offer you a great opportunity to discuss work and employment with colleagues, to enjoy a bit of social program too. Tonight we're going to a beautiful church. I've been there. It's really, again, such a beautiful venue. I want to conclude by thanking Asso Lavoro again for hosting this conference, this year's edition. And with that, I'll hand over to our host of today, Dario. Thank you.